Batman Incorporated issue 3. I'm slowly catching up, with issue 4 having come out, I believe, last week. I'm sorry. I jumped into the series a little late, but I am slowly catching up, and I'm pretty close to being all the way there. This issue starts off with Ghostmaker breaking into a doctor named Wu's apartment with the nearly dead Sky Spider, ordering him to save her life. Batman of China shows up, who Ghostmaker had called since they're in China, and needs his help in helping Sky Spider. We cut to Phantom 1 talking to Clownhunter in the back of his van, where he tells Clownhunter he needs to get away from Ghostmaker. But then Phantom 1 explains he doesn't want to hurt Clownhunter, instead he just needed to talk to him in private. And that's when we get Phantom 1's backstory, with a flashback, as he's just trying to warn him, because it turns out Phantom 1 was at one point actually Ghostmaker's sidekick. We see some sort of event, or party, or dance, or ball, I don't know, it's just one of those things that happen in comic books, or comic book movies. There's weird events and they have fundraisers, I don't know what they're called. And like all of them in those movies or comics, it gets robbed by Phantom 1's parents. Villains known as Mr. Menace and Mrs. Menace, which he although just refers as being stupid names, which I think is accurate. They then decide, you know what, robbing isn't enough. Let's just decide to blaze fire into the crowd. Oh, wow, I'm starting to see that this villain thing is not... You're not suited for this villain thing, you're just going for it. You need to rob them first and then kill them. Killing them is not going to get them to give you the credit card numbers or really anything else. You're just murdering people. But then Ghostmaker crashes in through the ceiling to just murder them both so violently when Ms. Menace mentions having a son, which is of course Phantom 1. We then see later on Phantom 1 is adopted by Ghostmaker, pretending to be someone else. He thinks that he can turn his boy into a better Robin than Jason Todd, who in the flashback had recently died. But after years of training Phantom 1, whose name we don't actually know, he ended up in traction after a training session, and instead of being a father, he instead insults his injured son's fighting skills. I'm starting to agree with Phantom 1 on this one. We then get panels learning that they worked together for 3 years, fighting villains including none other than Captain Cold. However, Phantom 1 wanted to prove himself, but was in a building that exploded like Jason, but he didn't die. Instead, he lived in the rubble, dying as his dad stood over him, with Phantom 1 begging for help, but Ghostmaker tells him he's a failure and leaves him to die. We then cut back to the present, where Phantom 1 explains how Ghostmaker still thinks he's dead, and when he saw Clownhunter, he had to warn him about his mentor. Which, I have to say, I think he was right to, because Jesus, he literally left his son to die, who was begging him for his life. Wow. Anyways, he reveals that his team are the ones going after the old mentors, as they themselves are just as bad as the Joker. We cut to Raven Red and Algatra being attacked by Fizzer. We also see that Batman Japan having it with Hollow. But luckily, Knight and Fallen have getting more or less a better talk, because Fallen, at this moment at least, is not trying to kill Avery. So instead, they decide to work together, because Avery's actually responsible for the death of both Fallen's husband and children. So they come to agreement and just let Avery get arrested. And then the issue ends with Phantom 1 offering Clownhunter to join him, which I think is a very, very interesting cliffhanger, and I'm really curious on what he's going to say. Ghostmaker, I think, is a very interesting character, while complex in the way of being a flawed hero and a flawed person. However, this issue, in my opinion, kind of removed the likability factor of the character, with how he left a child for dead. Not even just a child, but his own son. If that is Phantom 1 is telling the truth, which he could not be, but I'm pretty sure he is. However, last issue I said that Ghostmaker and Clownhunter were like a twisted take on Batman and Robin. But the stuff of him and Phantom 1 is even further down the line, and I like the parallels between Phantom 1 and Jason Todd. I really like that. Meanwhile, for the rest of the team, they really did absolutely nothing in this very issue, which is kind of disappointing, as despite this being a Batman Inc. comic, it's not really about them. Instead, they play as backup dancers, with Ghostmaker taking stage, which, personally, like I said, I think Ghostmaker is a pretty interesting character, so I'm personally okay with that. However, I would like to see more Batman Inc. because they're very, very much just background characters in this very issue. And for the last 2 issues, the characters, while they were definitely present, they weren't really focused on. This issue, on the other hand, really didn't focus on them at all. They didn't show up until the very end. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!